today we're going to be talking about the Startup Challenge. My experience from the Startup Challenge started back in Cape Town a couple of years back when it was still in its infancy. And we run an annual regional conference on the continent called the African Regional Conference. And when we introduced it for the first time, we ran it in parallel with the program. And then we soon found out that everybody was going to the Innotribe and not always coming to the other sessions. So now we have dedicated days to it. And it's been a huge success. And last year, we had the African Regional Conference in the Ivory Coast, which was very interesting for some bad reasons, but also some good reasons. And we had the competition once again. And the three gentlemen I have with me here today were the successful submissions of their startups.
Hi, my name is Mary Patrick, founder at VugaPay. Basically, VugaPay, it's a payment platform facilitating expats and diaspora to pay African merchants from their home bank accounts. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Daniel Yu, and I'm the founder and CEO of Sokowatch, which does on-demand deliveries to small retail shops in emerging markets. Currently, we supply about 5,000 micro-retailers in Kenya and Tanzania, and are looking to expand to other countries across East Africa as well.
Hi, I'm Omani Olawale. I'm the founder and CEO of IroFit Technologies. We provide a mobile point of sale solution that provides omni-channel payment capabilities to small retailers across Africa. And we help them to automate their record keeping. We provide sales and data analytics to help them improve their efficiency. And we connect them with the formal financial system. We are certified in Nigeria. We are integrated into all the banks.
The idea of what we want to discuss here is, how did you get into this? What was the thinking? This is what I need to do. I need to be an entrepreneur. I need to do things differently. We have players in your market. What made you get up one morning and say, this is what I want to do?
So basically, starting from my high school, I was a software developer. I used to program apps just for fun, for school stuff. So after this morning, one morning, I wanted to send money for my brother who was living in another province in the countryside. So I couldn't be able to move money from one telecom to another. So this was the same challenge as same African merchants. We're not able to receive cash from expats who use PayPal and them use unbanked services like mobile money. So we were like, why can't we not create this platform, which is VugaPay, to facilitate this problem? So I found myself being an entrepreneur from just coding stuff, which were just for fun.
So the idea behind Sokowatch actually came when I was living in Egypt. So I lived in Egypt for a period of time where I actually saw firsthand the challenges for small retailers to get products that they needed to sell to their community. And I'm also actually a software developer by background. And I've done a little bit of work with SMS notifications. For those of you who are not aware, in sub-Saharan Africa alone, more than 90% of the population actually has a mobile phone now. More people have a mobile phone than access to a toilet. And so this is quite an amazing statistic if you think about it, and it allows you to kind of use the mobile phone in very innovative ways that you wouldn't see elsewhere. And so for us, the idea of having an SMS-based system for you to place orders and then ultimately creating a logistics network to then fulfill those orders seemed like it was solving a really present problem in increasing access to goods in this market.
Ever since I was young, I've had a stubborn curiosity about pretty much everything out there. Most times, they are not things that are even very useful for me, but I find it difficult to let something go once it intrigues me. I remember in high school, I spent a whole month from morning till night trying to solve a particular physics question, and I refused to ask for help until I was able to solve it. So you can imagine that when I found out one of these times when I visited, I'd been living in Finland for some years, working. I'm a medical doctor by training, by the way. I was an associate professor of public health and a pediatric surgeon. And then I came visiting Nigeria. I took my mom to the hospital, and I was unable to pay for her healthcare bill in a federal teaching hospital that attended to over 5,000 patients every day. I mean, that was unbelievable. I mean, it was easy to contrast that with my experience in Finland. So the idea refused to leave my mind. And that's how we came up with IroFit. We basically created a technology that was able to do real-time payments even when there's no internet connection, got that patented across the world, and then developed that into the product. So I guess I'll put that to this stubborn curiosity.
Everybody wants to start up a business, a tech business, and our president is so supportive. Like he supports every entrepreneur who has an idea stage. So each year we run like a startup challenge. It's called Transform Africa, whereby we invite high school students, university students. They all pitch their ideas, and the first the 10 first, they get prizes to continue doing their startup idea. So like in Rwanda, Rwanda is the most supportive country in Africa when it comes to tech innovation. Like we have the first pilot of Zplane, which is a blood transporting startup. So before they started, they were like, this is very crazy. How would drones transport blood? And our president took it into logic and said, if we take blood from a normal clinic to transport it to another clinic, and it takes 20 minutes, and the drone can take 5 minutes to transport it, why shouldn't we do it? So the president funded that project. After he funded it, they did it, and then it went worldwide. In Tanzania, they copied the same system. Over in Kenya and some other West African countries. So we see that this was very innovative. Also, apart from that, like in Rwanda, there's people nowadays in the country don't pay using coins to normal transport systems. All people have cards. So the president was like, nobody should no longer use coins when going into the bus system. So now, like, everybody has a card going to the bus system. So this startup is called Tap and Go. So this has really motivated more Africans to get an experience of what is the banking, what feels like to own bank accounts, because most people use cards when they're going through the transport system.
When are we going to see the next generation or the next flow? Because there needs to be more. Eh?
Absolutely. So for those of you who are not familiar with M-Pesa, it's effectively a mobile money system with a virtual wallet tied to your phone number. Extremely popular. In fact, if you look at the list of mobile money leaders in the world, Kenya is number one. Beats the US, beats Japan, beats any market, it's Kenya. It's over 90% mobile money usage. And the reason for that is that you have one dominant telecom company, Safaricom, that's been able to implement pretty much universally the use of this mobile money wallet. And of course, you're talking about a market where the vast majority of the population does not have a bank account. They don't have access to traditional financial services. And the idea of having a virtual wallet that's attached to your telephone number where you can just SMS money to anybody anytime makes things very convenient. So M-Pesa has been around actually for over 10 years. As I mentioned, huge adoption, huge use. And really, I think if you're talking about what goes beyond M-Pesa, it's everything that's built on top of that. So for example, in my business, which is on-demand e-commerce type of company, we're able to collect payments from all of our small merchants, our customers, to effectively operate a cashless business in a context that is otherwise very low resource, pretty difficult to operate in. That's just one example. There are so many others. A great one, when you talk about offering kind of alternative financial services, our number of companies, Branch, Tala, a few others, where basically, of course, access to credit, access to loans is very difficult in these markets. And using some of these other startups, what you're able to do is simply download their app onto your phone, and you give it every permission possible, pretty much. It scans your social media, it scans your messages, your phone usage, all of that, and based off of that data, instantly offers you a loan. So non-collateralized loan, and it'll say, okay, based off of our scan, we'll give you a loan for $10 right now. And you hit accept, and the money gets sent right to your mobile wallet that instant. And this is providing access to finance, to liquidity that these people definitely didn't have before. And that's just one other example of the huge innovation in this market. So everything from that to, as I said, e-commerce services, to even kind of KYC. being able to kind of partner with banks to use M-Pesa data to triangulate along with, there's other great innovations in the ecosystem, doing facial recognition to do authentication. A lot of the kind of traditional tech features that you would see here, email, password, logins, whatnot, most people don't have an email address. So how do you kind of increase access to these services without that? So having great things like facial recognition, authentication through SMS via the phone number, these allow you to work around that. So I think having a base like M-Pesa provides a great foundation to innovate in ways that are very different from traditional kind of Western markets. But besides that, there's still huge opportunity for increasing access to just kind of basic services too. So talk about access to financing, access to electricity, access to goods. These are all things that are huge opportunities in the market.
What is happening on the innovation side, entrepreneurs in Nigeria?
So if you look into the larger entrepreneurial scene in Nigeria, is very active. You know that it's probably the biggest. It is the biggest in Africa, actually. You probably know about Andela, the alternative education startup that started in Nigeria, started by Nigerians. But even in the financial services space, many people are not aware of the fact that Nigeria is very much ahead of many countries, including the Western countries. For several years now, we've had a central processing and aggregation platform in Nigeria that handles all forms of electronic payments. So if I pay somebody from a different bank in Nigeria, he gets the money in 10 to 20 minutes at most. I mean, in most European and North American countries, that's still going to take at least a day. And for card payments and POS payment, settlement is done the very next day. In Nigeria, and that's been on for several years. We adopted the EMV chip and pin standard several years ago. The US just started trying to do that last year, and they had to find a workaround, you know. Instead of doing chip and pin, they had to do chip and signature because it's difficult to. So Nigeria is very innovative. Of course, I wish that Nigeria could move as fast as Kenya and Rwanda move. But then, of course, you have to consider that Nigeria is a much bigger and much more complicated society. So you can't, I mean, it's one of the laws of life, right? The smaller you are, the faster you can move, whether you're a company or a country.
What is the middle ground? Is a regulator are they promoting innovation or are they stifling it?
I think anytime you're innovating, especially in markets that are as opaque, to be honest, as most African countries, you have to recognize that there's always a status quo, and there's somebody who's currently benefiting from that status quo. Yeah. And depending on who that person is, I think depends on how much resistance or how much encouragement you'll get to push your innovation. So for us, for example, I am very happy that we operate in a limited status quo stakeholder environment. So for me, more or less focused on disrupting kind of last mile delivery and obviously doing it in a tech-enabled way. I'm not dealing with the upper echelons of government, with upper echelons of banking. And so this makes what we're doing particularly smoother than it would be in other instances. I can give you an example. One of my good friends actually runs a Bitcoin startup that focuses in Kenya. So they're called BitPesa. They're operating, I think, in 15 or so African markets now, but they started in Kenya, and they were actually more or less shut down by the central Kenyan bank because they did not approve of what they were doing. And it was the type of thing where they thought the conversations were going really well, and then all of a sudden it kind of dropped off, and then next thing they know, it's not allowed. So I can guarantee that somebody was benefiting inside from that status quo, or maybe they saw the opportunity and they said, you know what, we'll just do this ourselves, and decided to do that. So the main issue, as I said, with operating in these markets, I don't think it's limited to Nigeria or Kenya. I think actually Rwanda might be more of the exception to this situation because they have, comparatively speaking, excellent bureaucracy, forms of process. You mentioned the kind of, you can register your business online in Rwanda in less than 24 hours.
In Rwanda regulation, there's no tough regulation. So everything is very easy because all the system is in one way. There's no corruption. Like you can register a business in 24 hours. Basically, it takes 6 hours to get it approved. Mm-hmm. And when you try to add shareholders, you can easily add them online without requiring you to go to to RDB in person. Yeah, in Rwanda, like when we also starting, they were like, we have to have like a liquidity in the central government of around 500K USD. So we went to the central government and we said, we are a startup, we can't afford that money. So the central government says, since you're a startup, we're just going to allow you to operate on a specific level, and then when you get that big, you're going to pay this type of money. So this shows that our community is very supportive in terms of regulation. They know the hassle which startups we go through, so like they allow us to operate without much regulation cost. And this is the same as anybody who comes in. Like we have most Americans, Australians who come into Rwanda to start up a startup. Like we have businesses which are owned by Americans, but they started in Rwanda.
Okay.
Yeah. Because Rwanda is very supportive. Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I wish that every African country was like Rwanda, but unfortunately, I think most are not like that. And that's why, I mean, Daniel was saying in the interview that if you're innovating in Africa, you're starting a business in Africa, you have to already think about the market conditions and the regulatory conditions from day one. You don't have the luxury that your colleagues have in the Western world where you can just focus on the technology and then you just get unlimited capital, and you can just like Uber, just bulldoze and ignore the regulations, and you can't do that in Africa. So you basically have to make sure that from day one you can survive, and you have to understand how you navigate these regulatory hurdles, these market realities. Otherwise, there's not going to be a business to talk about.